Greetings, nerds. This is SNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. How are you doing this evening?
I am surprised because I did not realize how much you don't like Avatar. All the conversation we just had and how you were immediate like, let's just start recording. I don't want to. I'm like, oh wow, fascinating.
It's funny. I for whatever reason I haven't seen. I probably one of the few people on the planet that has not seen the very first film, and now the second one is out. Well, it's coming out, and I know you're planning on possibly seeing it, and I'm just like, well, do I hold firm or do I go and take the plunge and go see it? And my understanding is you don't necessarily, have to see the original, the first one, to maybe enjoy the second one. Is what that some of the things I've heard people say.
Right.
So
watch Dances with Wolves. It's the same movie.
Yeah. And so we'll see.
I think you should hold firm.
Yeah.
Because when I mentioned potentially going, I'm looking at a period of time within the next few weeks where I'm gonna have a lot of time off work. I'm gonna be stuck in freezing cold in Alaska. So I might have the time to waste 3 hours in a movie. But we also know that I have a tendency to also be like, man, it's a drive to the movie theater. I don't think I can do it. so I highly doubt I would go, but I wouldn't even consider it unless I go commit to it and come back and say, Will, you have to watch this so we can actually have a conversation about it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I wouldn't waste 3 hours, especially given your disdain for it, apparently. No.
It's not even disdain. It's just more I'm indifferent.
Right. I think in a weird way, it's we all have those movies that we have never seen and that everyone else has seen. And it takes a lot for you to forfeit that card because it's almost like a badge of honor. I haven't seen that. Haven't seen it. Okay. So I don't know. It takes a lot for you to actually be like, you know what, I'm going to try to trade in this card. Because then you just feel like you have to get a new card, and man, with everything coming out these days, how can you get a new card with that? Are you not going to watch an MCU movie? No.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. But if you come back and say, Will, you need to go check this out. If I get the DM over the holiday, assuming that Twitter is still around, given the latest shenanigans that's going on with that platform, or you send me a text and say, hey, you got to go check it out, then that may actually, I may trade in the card if you do that, because but between the two of us, I'm the one who's more likely to be like, oh, I can't, I just gotta do the instant reaction and say, Sarah, you gotta check this out, or this was so good. Well, I try to temper it because I don't want to unrealistically set your expectations, as I've been known to do in the past. So I've gotten better about that. But between the two of us, I'm usually the one that's the instant reaction guy.
You honestly just usually see it before I do. Yeah, but on that note, speaking about future movies, it's kind of sad because this time of year, I don't know what it is, but I feel like Into the Spiderverse was released originally around the holiday season.
It was. I remember. Yep. It was a 20. Yeah. I recall. Yeah.
Yeah, and then last year we had Spider-Man No Way Home, and so I'm just like, what? We do have a trailer for the new Spider-Verse movie, Into the Spider-Verse, but is it Into the Spider-Verse? Am I thinking about that?
That was the original, Across the Spider-Verse.
And then the sequel to this one will be Beyond the Spider-Verse.
Correct.
Okay. Tangent aside, my point being, I feel like I was a bit disappointed when they said June something. I'm like, no, I feel like this is something that should be released next month, or at the end of this month. But man, it's coming. It looks good. It looks visually as good as I remember the original looking on screen. It like the bits of dialogue that we get in this trailer, it feels very nostalgic to the original, and it feels like just a natural continuation of that story that they've already started. Yeah, I'm looking very much forward to seeing this in June, even though I wish it was more of a New Year release.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, originally I know it was at one point slated in October of this year, and then it got pushed back. But you're right. Everything about this film. Every time I come across it, I stop and watch it. If it's on TV, or sometimes it's one of those rewatchable films. I'll get in that mood and just put it on. And it's all the things that, like you said, carry forward as far as the through line with with Miles's family and all, and the visuals were just amazing. And I know a lot of people and a lot of other podcasts and stuff have like broken down all the various Spider people and the PS4 Spider and all that. But I don't know if you had a chance. I know I sent it to you, but I did get a chance to watch the Lord and Miller. They did on the day they dropped the trailer. They also had Haley Stanfield had a short 12-minute discussion with them about some of the things that they are moving forward with this film, and it's really, really good. I mean, some of the things they did talk about, to your point, with some of the through lines, is like in the first movie, it was all about how anybody can wear the mask, and in this film, they're really going to explore what do you do when you have the mask, and so those are some of the story beats that they're going to cover, and also just introducing some of the new characters. Given that we do have all these people in multiple Spider-Verses, and how Jess Drew is going to be kind of a mentor to Gwen, how Oscar Isaac's character Miguel, who is Spider-Man 99, invites Gwen to be a part of the Spider Club, and how Miles is feeling a little bit left out, but so there's those elements to it, and so also, like, we saw the little Peter B. Parker with the baby Bjorn, and so following up on his story, and also it just again really got me just even like more hyped to see this film, and like you, I was like, man, can it just come on out now? Because it'll definitely be, speaking about we're talking about how sequels are better than the original sometimes. Before we started recording with Abbott, when we were talking about James Cameron, I feel Lord and Miller are probably going to be doing that with this as well, with the team that they put together. I think they said they had like 1,000 animators that's been working on this film for like 3 years, which is nuts. But when you see the visuals in the trailer, you see how visually stunning it is and how it's going to be.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was just a very abrupt ending, and I'm like, oh, yeah. I thought you were going to say something more. But no. So quick question. Yeah. I didn't watch this trailer, but when does the Adam Driver versus Dinosaurs movie come out?
It's coming out next year. I want to say February or March.
Okay.
I think I want to say it's an A24 film. And yeah, I mean, basically, like putting a rundown, it's Adam Driver fighting the dinosaurs. But I guess the 65 is a reference to 65 million years ago. So basic premise is it's a kind of inverse Planet of the Apes kind of situation where he's a starship pilot and gets into an asteroid field and gets time warped to this strange planet, and basically it really the trailer does like pretty much give away the whole film as far as the premise and what's going to happen, and yeah, he ends up like fighting dinosaurs, and they showed him fighting dinosaurs in the trailer. Good trailer. I mean, it's a good trailer. I mean, it definitely. I watched it again right before we recorded, just to. It's one of those things like, yeah, maybe go check it out just for a good popcorn film. And it'll probably have that twist that, given that it does have the predictable premise, there probably will have some kind of twist that we will talk about whenever we watch the film. But yeah, I mean, it looks pretty interesting.
Yeah, it'll probably be a twist that as soon as you start the movie is like telegraphed from hours ago. I did watch a trailer right before
probably.
Yeah, I did watch a trailer right before we started recording for The Whale, the new Brendan Fraser movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, speaking about expecting a twist, like the trailer, it's nothing special in my opinion. I feel like it's just as a reiteration of all of everything that came out of, I think, Sundance is where it got a lot of praise, especially Brendan Fraser for his performance in the movie. And I did not realize that Darren Aronofsky directed it.
Huh.
So between that and the fact that it's produced by A24, I am very curious about how a trailer like that, which is presenting a very ABC story, might diverge into something really weird. Because Darren Aronofsky, like he's a hit miss director and writer, and I don't know if he wrote it, but A24 always usually has like these very bizarre twists in their movies.
Yeah.
So I'm in a way it's cool that they're advertising it and kind of selling the movie based on the performance that he gives, as well as the cast itself. I mean, we have our girl Max from Stranger Things in this movie.
Sadie Sink. Yeah, I saw that she was in that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that they're making the right choices with advertisement, but I'm also very cautious about like, okay, I want actual people to go see it and just let me know. Let me know if I should. Because Darren Aronofsky, he's a weird one. He's a weird one. So I don't know. But I do want to be supportive for Brendan and Sadie. But yeah, so that's something to keep on your radar. I think it comes out soon because of the award season.
Yeah.
But,
I think it does. Yeah. And also back, I was wrong on it's not an A24. It's actually Sony who is distributing 65, and it's coming out March the 3rd.
Oh, so I would have been shocked if you had told me that Dinosaurs versus Adam Driver, which is the actual name of the movie, was produced by A24. Been like, yeah, there's gonna be a twist. So speaking about release dates on the TV side of things, we do have confirmation that Superman and Lois and Gotham Knights will both premiere on Tuesday, March 14th. And we also got a Flash season 9 trailer. So yeah, I mean, CW isn't dead yet. It's still thumping along.
It is. It's bumping along, and I guess we shall see what happens with Superman and Lois. Gotham Knights, it'll have its run, but with Superman and Lois, I know I've seen some chatter about people thinking that it may get picked up by a Netflix or some other streaming platform. Who maybe even go home to the new HBO Max or whatever David Zaslav decides to call it once they get their shit together over there at Warner Discovery.
Right.
Not holding my breath or anything.
No, don't. Yeah. Yeah. So on the Superman note, we did get some more news. I am such a bully for DC. Like, but in my defense, they do this. They know how to bait me. And so a while back, we were talking about Henry Cavill and how he's like the surprise end credit scene of this notoriously good movie called Black Adam that neither of us have seen. And the man is back. He's going to be Supes again, and we're going to get the sequel to that we've always wanted. Yeah, that's not happening. Okay.
It is not.
Henry Cavill is not. James Gunn has decided that whatever discussion they did have, yeah, after much consideration, nope, we're not going to do that. Moving on.
Yeah. So yesterday evening, we did get, I guess, time-wise, I guess they were about the same. Who went first, second? At the end of the day, the result's the same. James Gunn tweets out, Peter and I have a DC slate ready to go, which we couldn't be more over the moon about. We'll be able to share some exciting information about our projects at the beginning of the next year. Among those on the slate is Superman. In the initial stages, our story will be focusing on an earlier part of Superman's life, so the character will not be played by Henry Cavill. So, yeah. So many places to go with that, right? No. But yeah, so then Henry does in his response, since everybody breaks news on social media today, I know we'll talk about Patty Jenkins here shortly, but I have just had a meeting with James Gunn and Peter Safran, and it's sad news, everyone. I will, after all, not be returning as Superman after being told by the studio to announce my return. After being told by the studio to announce my return back in October, prior to their hire. This news isn't the easiest, but that's life. The changing of the guard is something that happens. I respect that. James and Peter have a universe to build. I wish them and all involved with the new universe the best of luck and happiest and fortunes. And then, he just, gives a nice little, another paragraph about, how much fun he had in being Superman. And, that was Henry's statement. So, yeah, so the DCEU is pretty much dead.
Well, it's gonna be reborn.
Yeah. And I mean, that was the thing, so James talks about that I guess as they tear the whole thing down and restart everything, he is going to be starting up with a new Superman story and an earlier Superman.
It makes more sense. Like when all of this stuff was coming out about how like Henry's coming back and I don't know, there was a lot of mixed messages, and which to me is just another Thursday for DC. But at the end of the day, I have even with James Gunn in control, I still have very little trust in Warner Brothers and this DC Studios, whatever you want to call it, just because of their track record. And so I'm hopeful that James Gunn is going to create the universe that he wants to. bring in the creators that can give these characters in this world new light, and they can really build something off of, rather than take the pieces that so many people have tried to put together. But it's not the same. You have to build this universe. You have to have a very clear vision and a clear starting point. And I think it gets very muddled when you're using story or continuing stories that have already started, and it's been a decade or almost a decade. So
that's been a decade. I just realized that, because I mean, Man of Steel was
2014.
So it's been almost a decade. And it was announced, and we consider when he was cast. I mean, Henry's been cast. It has been a decade. I think he was cast in 2012.
Seriously. So
yeah.
I mean, like the time has come and gone at this point. I mean, we got him in Justice League 1, 2.0. I don't know what you want to call it. But the funny thing is, like, the dude for this, I feel like he walked away from The Witcher for this, and now he can't go back to The Witcher. And so kind of like, he DC just keeps screwing up these actors' lives.
I think with The Witcher, though, it sounds like I think his contract was done, and I think he was having some creative issues with the showrunners anyway. So he was just sort of like, okay, fine, I got this universe over here I can go back to, and he did go back to it. I mean, he was in credit with Black Adam. Apparently, they have filmed in a scene with him in the upcoming Flash film. Now, whether or not that scene will continue, I guess we'll find out in June, or maybe they'll shuffle the deck and maybe switch times with Aquaman 2 into Flash, and have Aquaman come out this summer and maybe put Flash at the end of next year to close out the DCEU. I mean, especially given that the story is Flashpoint. So what better way to wrap the bow on the DCEU by using the Flash movie and do some reshoots or whatever to do that hard reset, to give life to James's new vision. That I won't say like we do it with Kevin Feige and Feige we trust. I'll say in James we trust, but I'm giving them grace to get this right, because when you see projects that he has done, for example, taking C-list characters in the Marvel universe with Guardians of the Galaxy, and now really kickstarted many things in the MCU, taking that universe in a very positive direction as far as with those characters. And then even on the DC side with Peacemaker, which Peacemaker, I'm hoping that with all the shuffling and everything, I hope that character does survive and move forward, because it was his creation. It wasn't like he was inheriting this character from the prior regime. I mean, his Suicide Squad was the one. James's Suicide Squad film was the one that introduced this character. So, so maybe he'll fit. They'll figure out how to fit that into this. So I have faith that like I said, I'm keeping my mind open on this. Yes, after Henry, but sounds like I just heard this evening, I was listening to Jeff Snyder and Roca on the hot mic, that apparently Henry's already possibly got a new gig with this Warhammer series that Amazon might be picking up. With some Warhammer's, I guess, the video game. I wasn't familiar with it, but apparently they bought the rights to it, and Amazon is probably going to be buying the rights to it, and Henry might be involved with that. So it sounds like he's already got another potential franchise to kick off like he did with The Witcher, and he's still got his Enola Holmes on Netflix. So I mean, Harry's going to be fine. Even though it sucks for a lot of fans who are big Snyderverse fans, but Henry's going to be just fine whenever all is said and done. And even with DC, I mean, with James, he's having conversations with Ben Affleck to come back and direct. And I would think James, if he can swing it, would probably direct this new Superman film. And also speaking of Superman, the J.J. Abrams, Ta-Nehisi Coates Superman project is also still alive. So we'll either see that Kal-El or Val Zod as far as the Black Superman. So there's a lot of things out there that I guess first of next year we'll find out what's in store.
Is he still talking to Patty Jenkins?
Yeah. Well, that was the other thing that happened this week. Patty did go to Twitter and released a whole long statement, which whenever you have to tell everyone your reaction to it. But yeah, she sent out a statement to give her side of the story and about what went down with Wonder Woman 3 and also even brought into Star Wars stuff, but focusing on the Wonder Woman 3 thing, she said with the backlash being about Wonder Woman 3 not happening, the attractive clickbait false story that it was me that killed it or walked away from it. And James responds back to her on Twitter is just like, our dealings were always professional. We had good conversations. So maybe everybody was just making nice, but who knows what the truth is. It's probably somewhere in the middle.
Right. I just had to go onto Twitter and go through our DMs for me to find.
No, you were just.
What?
Yeah, you were like, yeah.
I'm gonna tell them. No. I found it. I found the tweet I sent you.
Yeah.
I saw Patty Jenkins' tweet. Sounds like she took out a small violin, and then I say some other stuff.
Yeah.
But about other things, not about Patty Jenkins. Yeah. I don't know. There's something about it. I still just, I don't know what it is, but there's some disingenuity and disingenuous. Like, I feel like her statements are very disingenuous, and there's a lot of saving face. Mm-hmm. Like, to bring in the whole Star Wars, and maybe she's just constantly reading the headlines and what people are writing, so she knows people like myself are immediately going there, and she's like, whoa, you don't have your facts. That actually didn't happen. It happened like this. But, okay, who else is counting here? So she's had, within the span of 2 years, 2 projects, one with DC and one with Star Wars, where similar situations have occurred, and she's telling us that we got our facts wrong. And I'm just like, I don't know if we do. I don't know. You're saying things, but what are you delivering? Okay. So yeah, I don't know. I saw she wrote a novel about it, and I'm like, I don't buy it. I'm sure some of it is true. I'm sure we'll get a Patty Jenkins movie in 2050. Okay.
Yeah.
But because I don't know, we get more Star Wars shows than we do movies. Okay.
Yeah, at this juncture, we are.
We really are. And they're consistent. I mean, yeah, we had Boba Fett, but we don't talk about Boba Fett, just like we don't talk about Bruno. So, but yeah, it's funny. All she needs is to complete her trifecta. Is for this to happen with an MCU project, Yeah. Sign her up for the Avengers for a movie.
And then Kevin's like, yeah, she'll join Scott Derrickson and others will be like, we had creative differences, and so I'm walking walking away from that film.
Which I'm saying, like to that point, happens, but we're talking twice in a row. and maybe it's true. Maybe she is still signed on for that project. I don't know. Yeah. But it's just yeah, that was my I started reading and then I stopped reading because I was like, I'm not buying any of this crap she's selling right now. But yeah. And on that note, let's talk about Doom Patrol.
Yes.
Wow, I like yelled that. I don't know why. So we finally have Doom Patrol return with the penultimate episode.
No.
No. Oh. It is called Penultimate Patrol. Am I wrong?
There was a Penultimate Patrol. That was the season 1 penultimate title. This one was called Doom Patrol. Yeah, what? I mean the title. Yeah, the story. I mean it shows Doom Patrol, but actually episode 4-1 is actually called Doom Patrol.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fuck you, IMDb.
Yeah, they messed you up.
Okay. Yeah, we're back with Doom Patrol. I'm no longer excited to talk about it.
Don't worry. This will all. I'll cut this out, so don't worry.
No. Leave it in. I like to be honest with people. I was excited to talk about it because I thought it was a very clever title for this episode. But now that you've totally proved me wrong, I think it was a stupid episode. My God. Yeah, Doom Patrol's back. Will, talk about it.
Well, I will say, I enjoyed this. It was a good season premiere. It really reset everything as far as our characters. They are now a fully fledged superhero team, and we all get reintroduced to our folks after their time travel back, to the past, and then helping out Rita with her journey during the 3rd season, and bringing Madame Rouge back with him to Doom Manor. And so Larry's still self-loathing. That's the one thing I will have to say as far as just my criticism out the gate. They don't know what to do with Larry. They really, I feel like Larry is just there. And because everything else about the opening episode, I really did enjoy. I mean, I liked what they are doing with Vic and him learning now that he has his new skin. And even though Rita dubbed him Cyborg as part of their clever code names for the team, it was, seeing him all this, now having to actually sit down at a keyboard and like do investigative work instead of talking to Grid and getting all the information and stuff. So I really like that. I mean, Diane Guerrero, as always, it's just amazing as far as playing Jane, or I guess in this one, Dr. H. And obviously Cliff's Cliff. I mean, gotta love Brendan Fraser's voice work, and Riley Shanahan doing all the body work for Robot Man. So like I said, it was a good overall starting off the season. I will say I was definitely more engaged with the start of this season than I was with last.
Yeah, I pretty much only can reiterate everything you just said, because what I wanted to talk about was that as much as I liked this first episode, and actually the first 2 episodes, because we watched both back to back, I liked how they reminded you where all these characters, like where they have been and where they are now, without going through, like, let me just remind you by explaining to you exactly what happened all of last season. No, you only take away like the important things that are relevant to what is currently, like, what is the dilemmas, what are the problems with these characters that they, or the new burdens, the new corners that they've backed themselves into. But at the end of the day, like a lot of it is interesting and I didn't think about before, especially with Cliff. I was surprised when they introduced the nanobites, and now this is a lot about like he can suddenly feel things.
Yeah.
And he very much wants to touch his grandson and his daughter, and yet he's now found himself like, oh, I have to diverge and save the world before I can do that, which is an interesting thing for him, because I feel like a lot of these characters, their conflict hasn't changed since season 1. But with each season, it's been refreshed to make it more nuanced and interesting, because right now we have Jane without Kay, or Kay realizing she doesn't need the underground, but the underground still needs to exist in some way, shape, or form. So we're going to see that throughout this season. But Larry is just not interesting. However, I will say they did make a right choice. Larry has always been interesting when paired up with Rita. I don't know what it is about those two, but I really like them together. I was happy to see that in the first episode. I think it was the first episode. Might have been the second episode. But I think overall why we both really liked these 2 episodes is because the writers made a lot of the right choices in the sense of the pairings that occurred. The telling us, kind of giving us clues about the through line while giving a self-contained, entertaining story to set everything up. I mean, we had Con Man.
Oh gosh.
Con Man. We had Con Man in the very first episode.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where I was thinking to myself, I thought I was watching Doom Patrol, not The Boys.
I did too.
Yeah. I was very confused, because I'm like, why haven't we seen this character on The Boys? I feel like he would be best friends with half the cast. Okay, that's all I'm saying. But no, we're watching Doom Patrol, and yeah, I don't really know what it is, but I do feel like whatever weight was holding down last season from being like on par with the previous 2, I feel like has been lifted. And these characters are really refreshed. I like Victor is interesting because now he's going through this whole crisis of no longer being super, but he still wants to be a hero. And Rita, because of the events that play out in the first episode, she's found this power and this purpose by being the leader, but she fucked up.
Yeah. Even though she constantly reminds how great her record is, but
well, and I think that's what they want to do. They want to be like, these characters are clearly writing her off, and for all we know, that's exactly what leads to Buttpocalypse, or zombie butts, whatever you want to call it. But it allows her to have that conflict and that great conversation with Larry about purpose. And I like how they've kind of like Victor and her are becoming foils for another, because they both are really clinging on to this hero identity. And without it, they don't have anything. And I think maybe that's why Larry, like, they don't want to have another person do that. So they can't with Larry. And yet he's kind of in that same situation where, like, what is his purpose? Because he can't like be in love with anyone or have any or be intimate with people.
Because I just felt like, okay, now with Key, it just seems the same. It was just based. I just felt like it was like Larry's just going in circles with with the negative spirit, but now, but of course, like now it's Keeg but you're right. I mean, the parent, whenever they do pair him off with Rita, it does bring that extra dimension to the character. It brings him it gives him that purpose, because now that Rita, high school drama teacher that she is, and has taken the mantle of team leader, and then how she just expected him, as always, to defend her whenever Vic and everyone was like, we want to vote for a new team leader, and when he didn't, how she felt betrayed, and sort of how all that played out with the two of them, where he's just like, no, you really did suck as team leader, and I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass just because we're friends.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite quote. It's been a while since I've written down a quote, but I had to, because I love this. I loved it when Jane was talking to Victor and said, well, aren't you a full-blown motivational poster come to life?
Yes.
I need to memorize this so I can use it, because there are so many times where I am on the verge of saying that, but I never knew how to until now. And thank you so much, Doom Patrol writers, because my God, that is a line to tell to so many people.
Yes.
I don't even remember. It was funny. It was like I blacked out. Like I was watching the episode, and then I hear this line, and I'm like, I don't even know what Victor said, but I don't care, because that comeback was awesome.
That was on point. I remember that. That definitely is a standout. That's definitely a standout line from that. I think it was the second episode, and they were sitting on the park bench. Yeah.
Yeah, when they were sitting on the park bench doing their super secret mission to meet up with the butt hunter, who claims to have gotten all of the butts, but what they were playing out in that second episode is that there's Nicholas, who is a butt that is just chilling, just chilling at home, a bureau person's home, being wined and dined.
Yeah, actually, that's another thing. Speaking of how, like you said, they were really pulling together some of the necessary threads from prior seasons. I really liked in that second episode how they went back to the first season, and how they had, throughout the episode, they were having different time jumps back and forth as far as present day, past, etc. But they went back to the moment when the team wreaked all the havoc in the ant farm, when they had to, if I recall, they were rescuing Silas from the ant farm back in the first season. And so, we see how the butts came into being, and how Dr. Yu came in and helped, was training them. And then when all the chaos happened because of the general wanting them to be killer butts and all that kind of stuff. And then I realized that moment during that scene, I was like, oh, they pulled together the I can't remember, it was Ant Patrol. I can't remember the exact episode title, but it was definitely a first season episode, because it's like, 2019. I was like, there you go. And there were other little beats throughout these first two episodes where they were like referencing back to things. So I really do enjoy the continuity, and that they utilize in these stories. And then as we've talked about, how our characters have really grown from that. And and Dr. Harrison, when Jane was in, when she was on the surface, psychoanalyzing all the members, and all their places, it really did set the stage. And then, the one thing that this series that I felt sometimes the last season was sort of failing was how things started to feel a little stagnant, because it was sort of like we're just repeating the same stuff with these characters over and over again. But I see how they're now, with this fourth season, learn from that, and even at these first two episodes are taking our folks in yes, they still have their baggage, and yes, they're going to, it is the Doom Patrol, so they're going to screw up, because that's what they do. But it's in a way that it feels fresh, and they're gonna, and I feel like they're gonna take it in a different place than what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I agree. I have a good feeling about this season, even though it's already only just started. It does bum me out though that they're doing a part 1 and part 2. They're splitting it. Is it both part 1 and both part 2, 6 episodes?
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah. So it's just like Titans. Yeah. Yeah.
And we don't know when this part 2 will come out.
Some point in 2023, but the date has yet to be determined.
Yeah, I would expect in 2020.
No, I'm just, it's so close. I know, like a few weeks ago, I like said something next year, this year, next year, kind of thing. Every time I'm like, yeah, we're almost to next year. So it's only 2 weeks, only like 2 weeks away.
I don't really know, but at some point in 2023, I'm like, yeah. Considering we've only started part 1, that would make sense.
I know. Well, I guess it could be 2024 if they really wanted to stretch it out, but I know they won't do that.
If they do, I am stopping part 1 right now. Because I'm like, I will forget, and I don't want to rewatch. I've actually realized, I don't know what it is, but I am surprised by how few. I'm not including reality TV, guys. I'm not including reality TV because reality TV is white noise for me. So I have seen way too much of it over and over again. But I'm talking about like real entertainment, which I'm like thinking about it. I really haven't gone back. I used to, back in the day, rewatch seasons of television and just rewatch. I don't know. I can't even tell you how many times I've seen like the first 4 seasons of The Walking Dead. But I can't remember the last time I rewatched a television show. Maybe actually Billions. I rewatched the first few seasons of Billions a few times. So maybe it's Billions, but I mean, other than that, I haven't really, like, I don't think I'll go back and rewatch House of Dragon, even though I love that show. I don't know. Maybe it's just because the density of some of these shows, like Succession, love it. I don't have the desire to rewatch what I've seen. But yeah, it's interesting.
I'm the same way. I mean, like I said, I mean, there might be, I may rewatch like episodes of shows. Like, I mean, Doom Patrol is one, like Therapy Patrol is one of those ones that always, that's such a standout for us. And I know we always go back to that one. And so, but that's just an example of where there's just certain episodes of shows that I will go back and rewatch. But the whole season, it's been a while since I've done a whole season rewatch. I think
definitely. I was trying to think, and I think that I have rewatched both Therapy Patrol, and there's another episode, I think it's called Underground Patrol, where we get Jane's the full story of what happened. And that episode, like, oh God.
Given that you brought that up, that was another thing in the second episode this week that we watched, where with this season, where where Vic and Jane had the interview, and Jane watching that interview.
Yep.
That was another one of those scenes where I was really locked in, because just again, having Vic talk to Kay and understanding what was, speaking of the underground, what was Jane's purpose and being the lead and everything, was just riveting, and especially whenever, you juxtapose that with the puzzle pieces and all that, that Jane was trying to sort out. Again, just laying that foundation for where they're going to take this character this season. Jane's typically my favorite character. However,
Doom Patrol, I find it just depends on who has the line, who has the scene of the episode. That's because I think another reason why we gravitate to this show is because it is an ensemble.
Yeah.
An ensemble done correctly, much like The Boys, where we have our favorite characters, but they are a family. And the family dynamics, which is why I love, like, Therapy Patrol stands out so much because it's that bottle episode. And I love it when these characters interact together as a family unit. So we did get a few moments with the team meeting, and we saw them at the beginning going on a mission together. And so I think in the previous season, we were lacking a lot of like the group interactions. So hopefully this season, whether it in part 1 or part 2 or in both, we do get another bottle episode or an episode where we can really delve deep into the family dynamics that are at play. And maybe we will, because yes, they are still very much stuck on it being individuals. They're a team, but they don't necessarily see how much if they're looking for purpose, their purpose is to help each other, like be there for one another, because they are all they've got in this world. So maybe that's the long end game for this season.
Well, and I think exploring that codependency is one of the, you're right. I mean, that definitely is one of the strengths of the show. But also, and you're right, there are favorite characters. I mean, and favorite character moments. Like the standout for me, and the other standout for me, episode 2, was the end there with Cliff after he does take out the zombie, was Ed, and Ernest Hunt, and then they do have the other butt, because I know Nicholas is in with the doctor, but then the other butt that was Teddy, the other I guess sibling, for lack of a better term, was probably the one that was in that box that the butt hunter gave to Jane and Victor, and and then Madame Rouge tasked him with killing it, and going back to the nanites and the ability to feel, and Cliff having those feelings and being able to feel those emotions and stuff, and in that moment where he's just like puts his head down on the thing and just processing all that was another just standout moment again for Robot Man, and voice work by Cliff and by Brendan Fraser, and body work by Riley. It's amazing how they could make that machine emote, and I think a lot of that does go to Brendan Fraser's voice work, but also Riley Shanahan's body acting too with the costume.
Yeah, definitely. I like what they're doing with Cliff, but I tend to like Cliff. All right. Anything else about the butts?
No, nothing else about the butts. I lost count of the number of fucks that Cliff said this episode, but I know Rita will let us know next week.
Man, I love how that rhymed, and I think that is a perfect way to end this episode. Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK on Twitter.
And you can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at CNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and visit our website, www.cnnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.